Stand on top of the colonnade, they come in through the windows on either side. We do put steps in, we don't have to climb out, you know. So the fanfare trumpets is up there, and there'll be a military band in front of the octagon, which is the door, you know, the door you go through for when you've got a breakfast underneath there. So there'll be a military band playing there. Eventually, once the inspecting officer, and the video said it's always a member of the royal family. It's always a member of a royal family. Yet this year it was King Philip of the Belgians. He was supposed to come last year because of what happened in the Ukraine. He was otherwise engaged, obviously. So we asked Princess Anne if she'd come. She was engaged. So her husband, Tim Lawrence, he was the inspecting officer last year. That was my first Founders Day. So this year it was King Philip of the Belgians. So what will happen eventually, once he's been round and he's inspected them all, there'll be a march past. So number 3 and 4 company, they'll march in a clockwise direction. They'll march up in front of the inspecting officer, and as they go past him, eyes left, and they'll salute with the right hand as they're marching past him. Number 1 and 2 company though, when they march in an anti-clockwise direction, go past him in that direction, they'll be given eyes right, and they'll salute with the left hand. And it's the only time it'll ever happen. It doesn't happen in the army, it doesn't happen here any other time. But the reason for it was when Queen Victoria was the inspecting officer. She said, if my pensioners are going to pay me the compliment of an eyes right and a salute, I want to be able to see their faces. So she said, if they do an eyes right and salute with the right hand, they're covering their faces, can't see them. So once the 1 and 2 company march past the inspecting officer, they do an eyes right and they always salute with the left hand. So that's the Founders Day parade. Those who can't walk, they'll bring in these benches and they'll bring them up to the edges of the grassed area, and they'll sit and watch the parade. Having said that, there's always 6 pensioners will go past the inspecting officer on mobility scooters. Yeah. Another 6 will be pushed past on wheelchairs. But the rest of them will just sit on the benches in the scarlets. Yeah. But they'll just sit and observe the parade, if you like. So on these 2 grassed areas here, there's 2 stands put up big enough to hold 3,000 people. So pensioners, friends and relatives are the ones who come down here. Once it's all over, they come down here onto the south terrace. They've got a big tented area up here. They'll have food outlets, there's 2 bars, there's a stage in the middle where the gate is down there. They'll put a stage up there, and where you have a band that play, and all the pensioners will have their own table, and they'll take their friends and their relatives down there and just have a big party until the fucking last one falls over, really. So that's Founders Day. So it's the biggest day in the calendar. It's just to commemorate the birth and the restoration of Charles II. So we'll go down and have a look at his original name was Colonel William Careless. The very last battle, everybody thinks there was 1 English Civil War. There was actually 3 of them. Once Charles II had been, once Charles I had been executed, the Civil War's carried on. Charles II, as he was to become, still led his troops in battle for the Royalists against the Roundheads, against the Parliamentarians. The very last battle of the 3rd English Civil War was at Worcester. Charles led his troops into battle. They lost the battle to the Parliamentarians, Oliver Cromwell's new army. And what happened was that Charles managed to escape the battlefield, but he spent 2 days walking, and he ended up at Boscobel House in Staffordshire. He'd been walking for 2 days. And also, but the place was calling the Parliamentarians. He was dressed as a peasant, you know, to try and disguise himself. Got to this safe house, like a royalist house, Boscobel House in Shropshire. Also at Boscobel House was Colonel William Careless, as he was then. And he said to the king, "You can't stay here, Your Majesty. This place is crawling with Parliamentarians. You're in mortal danger. We need to get you to a place of safety." So he took the king into Boscobel Woods, and they hid in an oak tree. They were up there for 14 hours while the Parliamentarians were looking for Charles. They knew he was somewhere in the area, but they couldn't find him. He hid in this oak tree. The Parliamentarians actually walked underneath the oak tree that they were hiding in. King was exhausted, big man, he was 6'2", but Careless held him in his arms. He slept in his arms in an oak tree. And after 14 hours, as the Parliamentarians dispersed, he came back down out of the tree again. And eventually, just to cut a long story short, Charles made his way to Bristol, then to Southampton, and eventually over to France, where he was in exile for the next 9 years. So, but the king said to Careless, "I can't keep calling you Careless," even though we think then Careless meant carefree, you know, no cares. rather than negligent like he does now. So he renamed him Colonel William Carlos, because it sounded a bit like careless, but also Carlos is Spanish for Charles. So that's why he honoured him with that name.
Right.
So very significant, because if Carlos hadn't taken the king into the woods, chances are he'd have been captured by the parliamentarians, he'd have been executed the same way his father was. This hospital would never have been built.
Yeah.
So that's why he's a really significant figure. And that's why the Oakley is such it's like a symbol of the Royal Hospital. And that's why the Founders' Day is also called Oak Apple Day. And on Founders' Day, every pensioner will wear an oak leaf in his lapel. All the visitors in the stand are all asked to wear an oak leaf in their lapels, and the plinth that the statue stands on, that's covered in oak leaves as well. So Founders' Day is also called Oak Apple Day. A lot of people come down here and say, right, you're celebrating King Charles II, why have you got a King statue of Julius Caesar? This really, when he was in exile in France, he was being cared and protected for by his first cousin, Louis XIV, the Sun King, Louis XIV. And Louis had built his own home for veterans, as you heard on the tape, L'Hôtel des Invalides. He built that in 1670. And if you ever go to L'Hôtel des Invalides in Paris, you'll see that Louis saw himself as a leader, like a general, a leader of men, a leader in battle. So he used to dress up in Roman generals' garb, and there were statues of Louis XIV in Paris, dressed like this. So this statue here was commissioned by a guy called Tobias Rustak. He was one of the king's courtiers down at Hampton Court. He commissioned Grinling Gibbons, who was a woodworker, but he was also a sculptor, to create this statue. And when the king heard about it, he said, right, okay, as a nod to Louis, just as a mark of respect, if you're going to put a statue up of me, I want it to be also dressed up as a Roman general, as a leader of men, just as a nod to Louis XIV, who used to love to dress like that. Living in the mud on the battlefield, barely being taken care of, fending for themselves. So eventually he retired, or they were too injured to fight on, and they came here. This was fucking luxury. This is absolute luxury for them. So they've got 3 meals a day, they've got a bed for the night. But these are 6 foot by 6 foot, they've got a...
Are the original beds?
I don't think... It might well be, I'm not sure. I wouldn't have thought so. I wouldn't have thought so. But having said that, I mean, they lived in these berths until 1954. So there were 2 sergeants, 2 corporals, 1 drummer, and 21 private soldiers. So if we took this wall away, this would go on another 21 of these berths, 23 of these berths, and then there'd be another sergeant's berth at the other end. So...
But I know it's been used.
No, it's got to be used, though.
So this was a staff sergeant's one?
Sergeant.
At the sergeant's one?
I mean, I know it's got staff sergeant.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Well, he might well have been a staff sergeant in the army.
Yeah.
But he would have been a sergeant when he come in.
Yeah.
Every room got that in the Lord's Prayer?
I don't think so, no, I think these were just brought in as personal possessions.
Yeah, because he's got it on the wall there.
Yeah, we've got one on the wall out there.
Yeah, in his room.
Nick,
Yeah.
got a fag?
On the market, isn't it?
Senior service.
Is that what they are?
Yeah.
No wonder they're all short of breath in them days.
Yeah, cigarette luxury. And there's tobacco. You had some of that when you was in your foundation, didn't you?
Nice, sell it.
Yeah.
Right,
Woodbines.
Gonna move on.
Yeah.
Right. This is the oxygen, reason obviously to 8 sides. Access to the hospital when it was first built was from the river.
Right.
The embankment wasn't there. Royal Hospital Road wasn't there, so this road used to go all the way from the river, all the way up to King's Road. We used to get soldiers on horseback, cavalrymen,
Right.
used to ride up there.
Right.
And so they built the doors as high as they are, so they'd have to dismount when they came through.
So they actually came through here on the horses, like, yeah.
Now these doors were built in situ. You can't take off the hinges there. If you want to take those doors down, you have to do some work on the brickwork around them.
Right.
You can just take the doors down. Whether they've ever actually been taken down and put back, I don't know.
No.
But they're the original doors that were put in the 1680s.
Right.
Now that See that coat of arms up there?
Yeah.
That was similar hospital to this was built in Dublin, Royal Hospital Kilmainham, and that was built in 1670, same time that the one in Paris was built. And if you ever Google it, the Royal Hospital in Kilmainham in Dublin, and look at the photograph, when it first pops up you think, oh, that's this place. But it's not, and we think, because it's older than this place, we think that's where Wren got his idea to build this in the way it was, in like the three-corner square. But Kilmainham closed its doors in 1925 to its veterans, and it's still there, but it's a hospital these days. So the coat of arms was donated to us.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Right, I'll take you in the chapel because Bill's going to take his tour in the Oh, Rod, sorry, mate. Yeah. So this is the Wren Chapel. It was actually completed in 1687, which was 5 years before the first pensioners walked through the door. We know this is the one part of the hospital that Charles II actually came in, because the roof was on by 1685. February 1685 is when Charles II died. And we know that he came in here just shortly before he died. He may well have been to other parts of the hospital, but this is the one part of the hospital we know he actually came to. So Wren built this, like I say, finished in 1687. As you saw in a video earlier on, when James II became king, he expanded the army so much that they needed more space, more accommodation here. So the date of the intake for the pensioners were put back and didn't come through the door until February 4, 1692. This was actually consecrated in 1691, about 5 months before the first pensioners walked in. When it was first opened, there was 2 services every day, and it was compulsory in them days for the pensioners to attend each service. Nowadays, it's just the 1 service a week. Although they have special occasions, most pensioners choose to have their funerals in here. Mine's definitely going to be in here when I leave. Obviously Christmas, Easter, special occasions. They have some concerts in here, choir concerts. But actual services, day-to-day services, just 1 a week now. But it's a parish church, this.
Is it compulsory to come on the Sunday? No.
No longer.
If you come, you have to come in with
Well, pensioners normally, if they come in on a Sunday morning for the service, they'll come in their scarlets. We also have what we call regimental days. Some days, I've just had the Royal Armoured Corps Day, the Royal Engineers have their day, the REME have had their day this year. And what happens is they'll just send a contingent of ex-REME or serving soldiers or whatever, and we'll have a bit of a parade outside. After the parade, they'll come inside and they'll have the service in here on a Sunday morning. But it's a parish church. The public are welcome to come in here on a Sunday morning and just enjoy the service with the rest of them. We've also got a choir. They're nothing to do with the hospital, really. They're just singers who form the choir. That Will Van, the music director that you saw earlier on, he's the one who recruits them and brings them in. Fantastic singers. And they're all just professional singers who come in here, are good enough to come in here on a Sunday morning. Well, yeah, of course, no problem. Come in here on a Sunday morning and sing for us. 6 men, 6 women, form up in the choir stalls here. And they sing every morning. Then up there is the organ. I'll tell you a little bit more about that later on. And the organ's played by a scholar. You have 1 scholar every year. Again, Will Van interviews them. And he decides then. They're just professional musicians they're just scholars. Morning, Harry. No, it's okay, mate. It's okay. They're just scholars. They play for a year. Will interviews them. They come in. They play the organ for us for a year. After the year's finished, they go off and do their own thing, whatever they were going to do with their musical career after that. And then somebody else would take over.
Have you ever had anyone famous?
No. Not that I'm aware of. No.
Not until I came.
Not till you came. Yeah.
What,
yeah,
playing organ?
I'm a scholar.
Yeah. Scholar.
Oh, a scholar.
Yeah, of course you can. Yeah, feel free. Morning.
Morning.
How are you? Okay. Yeah.
See you in a bit.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I like my skull.
As I say, this was consecrated in 1691. designed by Christopher Wren. He was given no blueprint. When he built St Paul's Cathedral, he was told virtually how they wanted it to look when he finished. So he had a blueprint to work with. And so that's why St Paul's is a lot more ornate, a lot grander than this place. 5 times the size of this place anyway.
Yeah.
But he wasn't given any blueprint. He said, you build that the way you want it. So he built this to his own sort of predilection, his own taste, if you like. This is how he wanted any church that he could build to look like. He built 60 odd churches in the 17th century. After the Great Fire of London, they were all flattened. Most of them were made of wood. So they were all burned down after the Great. And Christopher Wren rebuilt about 60 of them. So I need to find out which ones they are and go and visit them and just see what they look like.
Yeah.
But he wanted this. The reason that this is raised and that the Great Hall is raised is because they wanted the windows to be above the height of the colonnade out there.
Right.
So that, and this is Wren's own words, God's good light can flood in. So the pews that you can see, all faced inwards, they would sit here, the pensioners, with their hymn books or their prayer books, and the light from behind them would illuminate the prayer books. A lot of people think these used to be stained glass windows. They've never been stained glass, they've always been plain glass. And again, that was Wren's idea. He wanted as much light as possible to come in. They were, at one time, diamond lead glass. But a bomb fell on the East Wing in 1941, blew all the windows out. So he decided then that he was going to still going to have plain glass, plate glass, but he was going to put this reinforced metal work around them. So in case another bomb fell, it wouldn't create the same sort of problem, it wouldn't blow the windows in the way it did then. So that's why you've got all this metal work around the windows.
Yeah.
But that's the reason why they're plain glass. He didn't want stained glass windows. They've never been stained glass, they've always been plain glass.
Who painted that? Do you know?
I'm going to take you up there in a minute, I'll show you.
Right.
Tell you all about it in a minute. But the woodwork around the side, and also the woodwork that you've seen in the Great Hall, this was all done by a guy called Charles Hopson. Again, Wren said, I want oak panelling. So a guy called Charles Hopson, who was a master carpenter. He created these. He built all these box pews that you can see here. All the pews that you can see here now, they used to be twice as long, they cut them in half, and I'll tell you all about that in a minute. There were no backs on them at the time. Pensioners used to come in and sit on benches twice as long as this. But they all faced inwards. I'll say there were no backs on them. But these pews here, the base of the bits you're sitting on, are original.
Right.
They were here in 1692 when the hospital first opened. So he built that. He also built the gallery that you can see up there, and he also was responsible for that marquetry you can see on that backboard behind the altar. Grinling Gibbons, who sculpted the statue outside, he also sculpted all these cherubs that you can see. 26 of them. Remember I was telling you about 26 pensioners for the Lord?
Yeah.
So he made 26 of these, hand carved everyone individually, 26 of them to signify the 26 pensioners on each ward. And he also, that floral work that you can see on top of the panelling by the altar, he sculpted that as well.
Right.
So another thing that Wren wanted was, you'll notice the acoustics in here are a lot better than behind the Great Hall, and that's all to do with the shape of the roof.
Yeah.
In the Great Hall, the roof is square.
Yeah.
That arched roof there makes the acoustics so much better in here. And Wren said, right, in here, he worked out that a voice in here could carry 50 feet in front of him, 30 feet to either side, and 20 foot behind. So what he had was the pulpit there.
Yeah.
He had it put against the south wall. And so this is where the services were conducted from. That's where the vicar or the chaplain used to stand. And it carried on like that until the early 19th century, when Sir John Soane, who built all those buildings the quartermaster buildings, he came in and he said he wanted it more as a conventional church. So he had the pulpit moved back against the east wall, and all the pews were moved inwards to face the altar.
Right.
So, and you'll see, when we go to the museum, you'll see a painting in there. It's called, I can't remember what it's called now, but it's actually a picture of the moment when a pensioner died in the chapel. But you'll see that they're all facing the altar.
Yeah.
So, and in most churches now, the pulpit is against the east wall, and that's how he wanted it, a more conventional setting.
Yeah.
So, But in 1922, they brought these choir stalls in, and they thought, well, the only way we're going to get these in is inward facing.
Yeah.
So what happened then was that all the pews were again moved so that they all face inwards, and that's the way they've been ever since. And the backs were put on them. But the chaplain in here, he pointed something out to me, something I'd never thought of really. It's just a point of interest, nothing to do with the history of the hospital. But these are all original pews, the bases. And he said to me, you think they were here in 1692? How old was the oak then?
Yeah,
when it was cut down to make these. He said probably 300 or 400 years old then.
Yeah, yeah.
So you're talking about wood that began life like when Richard the Lionheart, Henry II, Thomas of Becket was the you know. So probably 12th, 13th century.
Yeah.
This has been
And that is,
going since,
you've got to bring that up, innit?
Yeah, it's just something that he pointed out, and I thought that's really interesting. I'll show you this, by the way. This is a roll of honour. Just before we go down that far end, these are the pensioners that have died since 2022. Remember I was telling you about the blind pensioner?
Yeah, I remember him when I was here last year.
Yeah, he's dead now. Did I tell you that?
Yeah.
Lee died. That's where is he? Young, Anthony Sanderson Young. That was him.
Oh right,
Yeah. He was only here for about a year.
I know. I remember.
Well, the brain tumour that made him blind just came back,
Yeah.
and it killed him in the end.
Oh.
You remember Jeff? You remember Jeffrey? Had the
Yeah.
That's him. He died last year.
Oh.
Yeah. He'd had throat cancer and he had his voice box taken away, so he had one of these things, you know, where you have to push
Yeah.
He had one of them. So yeah, he was still alive last time Greg came down.
Yeah, he was.
But he died in January. So these are all the pensioners.
That one's gone this year.
Yeah. The last one only died this month, 11th of October.
Oh.
In fact, we've had 2 die this month. About 3 or 4 dying. The last Richard Payne.
Yeah.
Richard Dowes, bless him, 6 months ago, he wouldn't have known there's anything wrong with him. He's wandering around, all of a sudden he got a brain tumour, killed him in about 2 months. He just sent him doolally. We thought he'd got some sort of onset dementia. It's like he used to go wandering in his pyjamas, you know, and it was all to do with his brain tumour. And I say, from wandering around, nothing wrong with him at all. 6 months later, he was dead. Crazy. So yeah, this is just like a roll of honour. That's 2022 and 2023. So,
Yeah. Oh, so you've had more die this year than last year, haven't you?
What, mate?
You've had more die this year than last year.
Yeah. But obviously, so at the moment, I mean, we've got capacity for 310. Like I said, it used to be 500. But because of there's only one longboard now on each floor instead of 2. All the capacity's been reduced, obviously. So it used to be 500 pensioners here. But now the capacity is 310. At the moment, we've only got about 282.
Yeah.
So you can see they die off at a regular rate, but also we replace them.
Yeah, we were asking a fellow last night, weren't we? And he said it's never full.
Yeah.
You know, because you've got that many turning.
Morning, Ken. You all right? Well, the painting, this is a mural. The one in the Great Hall of the Fresco, this is a mural. This was painted by 2 Italian painters, Sebastiano Ricci and his nephew, Marco. We think Sebastiano was responsible for painting the figures and Marco painted the background. And what it depicts is Christ ascending to heaven. He's got the flag of St. George there in his left hand. And we think it was painted in 1713, 1714. 1714 was the year that the last Stuart monarch, Queen Anne, when she died. And we think that she commissioned the Ricci's. We're not sure because there's no record of Ricci ever having spoken to Queen Anne. But the train of thought is that she commissioned this painting, and there's 2 reasons why we think that. Because of the year 1713, 1714 when she was the monarch, but also Queen Anne had 17 pregnancies. Some of them were stillborn, but those that survived, none of them survived into adulthood. The oldest one was 11 when he died. So we think the Ricci's have depicted all these cherubs here, also ascending to heaven, to depict those children or the pregnancies of Queen Anne. So we think that, as I say, it was commissioned by her. The other train of thought is that it might be connected to King George I, who became the first Stuart king, sorry, the first Hanoverian king in 1714. But we think it's unlikely. One, because we know he never visited the hospital, and two, he didn't speak English. So we don't think that's true. Nobody knows for sure who commissioned it, but we think it was probably Queen Anne. There's another tale that I heard when I first came here, that the bomb that fell on the east wing took out this corner of the mural. And so I thought, well, who restored it? But like John, when I've spoken to him, he said there's no record of that ever been damaged by that bomb. So I don't think it was ever.
Is it a crack? Is it a crack on the bottom there, Ivan?
It might well be. It's due.
There.
I think it might well be. Yeah, it's due restoration. It hasn't been restored since the 60s. It's been restored about 4 times since it was painted back in the early 1700s. But it's probably due for restoration again now. So yeah, the 2 icons that you can see, that's St George the Dragon. This is the Virgin Mary. We've also got quite a lot of like chalices and ornamental plates that go on the altar, but because they're so valuable, so expensive, they're actually kept in Kate's office.
Yeah.
Unless they actually go out. And that's why that area is alarmed.
Yeah.
So just to stop people climbing up there and nicking the silverware.
I think there's normally foreigners in it that go mooching.
Yeah, like Chaz, like Kaz, you mean?
Yeah.
Now that's the King's chair. That was actually made from wood that was reclaimed when the bomb dropped in the Second World War. The V2 destroyed the northeast wing. Some of the wood that was reclaimed was used to make that chair, and it was presented to George VI, but it never left the hospital because George VI in turn presented that to the hospital.
Right.
The King's chair, because that's the chair that he used to sit in when he came here. I don't think you're going to be able to read that plaque.
No, you
it's
can't.
so worn out, and people have been sitting on it.
Yeah.
But we know King George VI sat there. And the font, this wasn't until the 1950s, but it was designed to take, so it fitted in, so it was designed to look like a Stuart font, a font that would have been made in the Stuart times. Yeah. But it's only about 70 or 80 years old.
I can't read that. I'm just trying to zoom it up on camera.
Yeah.
Can't read it at all.
Yeah. I think Kate might have a record. She's